All right, I'm back. Video time. It's been quite a couple of days. And honestly, I've made like 4, 5, 6 videos, and I just never uploaded them and stuff. Uh, I may upload them. I might just go ahead and burn them and say fuck it. But plus I've been sick, so that work, it's kind of gotten me, I guess, out of the groove of what I had, been doing due to Thanksgiving break and whatnot. Um, but we can go ahead and hit y'all with this video real quick. If you guys have been waiting on a video from me, I do apologize. I will try to be better about that going forward. All right, so here's the deal. First thing of slate of games, preseason games happened yesterday. I ain't watching none of this shit. Uh, but the Pels have been practicing. It's been almost a week now. A couple interesting things have been said this week, but today we just finished having, a couple of, interviews, post-practice interviews with B.I. Stan and Jackson Hayes. Couple things that were said that I find intriguing. Jackson Hayes was asked about practice, and he said that he was used to practices being 45 minutes under Stan Van Gundy. Under Alvin Gentry. But they're 2 to 3 hours under Stan Van Gundy. First of all, let me just say this. I think all of us, to some degree, in our heads was thinking practices probably was that long with Gentry. But for this to come out, hold on, wait a minute. Like, think about this, man. So, one of the things we were always before we get into let me say this. Maybe it's 2 to 3 hours now because it's training camp. Maybe that'll change when the season happens. Okay, so let's put that to the side. However, let's work off the assumption that this is just standard. One of the complaints that we had about Gentry was the fact that Gentry, they didn't look prepared. They never look prepared. If you're telling me they're practicing for 45 minutes as the standard, no wonder they didn't look prepared. Gentry should have had the boys in there 2 hours, 3 hours. Like, that, I'm telling you guys, that alone is going to show tremendous strides of improvement for these guys. Like, I'm curious as to what league practices are on average for like length of time for coaches. I'm curious as to what the hell that is. But 2 to 3 hours, like, if let's just assume that Stan is like way an aberration. He's like, normal practices ain't that long. Maybe they're like an hour, 15 minutes. Those guys are going to, and I know they're not actively like physically working throughout the entire practice. They're doing little, because I've been in practice before when I played high school ball and junior high ball. I know how practices can be. That is going to pay dividends. That is going to pay dividends, especially on the defensive end. So that alone, I'm happy to hear that. And I told you guys I wasn't gonna shit on Stan. Matter of fact, I said I think I'm gonna like the hire overall because I didn't think it was a bad hire, given everything that's been said. But Stan won me over. Like, I'm gonna tell you guys, Stan won me over because his IQ and understanding of the game, his ability to talk the game and teach it and impart knowledge and wisdom. He won me over with that because those guys needed it. I'm gonna tell you, like, he won me over just off of that. Listening to him, I could listen to Stan talk about the game all day and never get tired. Like, for real. He's one of the few coaches or people where I sit there and be like, I would want to sit there and pick his brain. I like Doris Burke too. I love to listen to her talk. Her personality is fun. But anyway, so that is important. That's going to be good for the improvement of the team overall defensively and making sure they understand the principles. I don't expect I don't expect them to not look prepared for games if this is the standard going forward. That in itself is going to make the Pels far more dangerous. Uh, Too many games last year, they just didn't look prepared. This is going to make sure that they're prepared and they're ready to play. Um, Stan said something very interesting today. He's been saying a lot of interesting stuff. I'm sorry, my eyes is itching for whatever fucking reason. Um, so he was asked about communication. He was asked about the Pels communicating because, that was one of the issues. They weren't doing enough communicating. Um, he answered the question, and I can't remember if this was a part of the question or if this was a separate question, but I'm gonna go ahead and add this as a part of it. But he was discussing beyond Zion attacking or playing the game itself, and he was saying, okay, they're not facilitators, they're passers. I am so glad he made that distinction because he basically told the reporters, look, I don't expect these guys to sit there and run point guard. Their job is when they get the ball, they should be thinking attack and get points for the team and make the dump off passes or the necessary correct smart basketball read when it's time. That's what he's saying, that's what they're supposed to do. Now, you might say, well, isn't a passer and a facilitator the same thing? No, facilitator comes with much more responsibility. Being a passer is an aspect of facilitating. It's anybody can pass, right? But to facilitate requires so much more. And this goes into the other thing about the question that he was answering. He said, Lonzo Ball, he was extremely impressed with him taking charge of the offense and positioning players and getting them set in position to run plays. And on the defensive end, he was getting people in the position. Now, hear me out. If you're surprised by this, I hate to say it, but you don't watch basketball, you didn't pay attention. Lonzo was doing this last year. But to more credit, let's just say you're a Pels fan and you've never watched Lonzo on the Lakers. Lonzo talked about, and I'm going to reference an interview he had when his second year under Luke Walton when he had LeBron and Rondo. He was talking about how he was watching and picking up the fact that Rondo and LeBron talk on both sides of the ball constantly, nonstop. And he said he took that as something he had to gain for himself to actually, be a better point guard. Now, I've told you guys tons of like, if you followed me on Facebook, on YouTube videos, Twitter, whatever, I've constantly said that point guard takes usually 4 to 5 years to learn on a professional level. That is one of the things you have to learn as a point guard is communication and, more importantly, setting the table. So if it doesn't matter if you want to run a play if your guys aren't set properly. Yes, you get here. You need to be here. Get them where they need to be so they can make the most of the play or the action. Lonzo was picking this part of the game up with Rondo and LeBron. Last year, under Gentry, he was doing it too. You didn't see it all the time because, the main focus was on everybody else. But specifically, there were plays when free throws were getting shot. Lonzo was, hey, Josh Hart, leak out. After this, leak out. Or, hey, you need to be here. Or even after the play, he pulled Jackson Hayes to the side. He'll pull Zion. He's like, wait, you guys, listen. What you guys need to be doing is you need to be positioned here, you need to be here. He was being that last year. He was doing that last year. Now, to the degree that Stan wants him to do it, I don't think he was. Because I don't think, obviously Gentry practicing 45 minutes and these guys don't understand like certain basics of the game. This didn't happen. Right? So he said, Stan basically said Lonzo was the only one doing this essentially. And he did it the entire practice. Basically, he took over that. Nobody had to do it. So Lonzo, in conjunction with the statement he was talking about facilitating the passing, I told you guys that Lonzo was going to be the point guard of this team. He was going to have to be because he was the best passer. And he's the one that understands. He has the highest IQ. He understands the positioning and where they need to set up an attack from. He was picking this stuff up with Rondo and LeBron, which is why I was happy they were on a team so they could game him up. But he was picking up this stuff from them, and he is storing that data. Even when he got hurt, he was still watching. You guys don't understand this. This is part of the reason it's so hard to play point guard. You just can't mindlessly attack. You have to be a leader of men on the court. Even if you're not the number one scoring option or number two, your job as a point guard, your basic job is to get people positioned. It's why the point guard play skill-wise is weak in terms of how to actually manipulate, the people on the court. CP3 is one of the old school, he knows, he understands. LeBron understands. But a lot of these guys don't do that. Lonzo is one of those guys. But these are skills it takes time to learn. It's not always just about the points that you put on the board. Yes, Lonzo has to score, but being a better point guard is better than just scoring, because then that comes with, hey, when do I need to attack? When do I need to draw the defense? How do I get Zion the best shot? When has Zion last taken a shot? When does he need to get a shot? Is he getting cold? What about B.I.? B.I. has been in a slump. I need to still give him confidence. Okay, when he just missed his shot, I'm going to have the confidence to give him the ball so he can take the next shot. Hey, Josh Hart isn't cutting as much. We need that threat. Josh Hart, come here. Hey, you need to cut more. I'm going to be looking for you, but be ready to cut. We need that right now because they're playing off of you. I mean, they're playing with their eyes off of you. Take advantage of it. When their eyes leave you, go. This is stuff that takes time. It's like, okay, there's certain players that have natural talents. Like Luka's a natural talent. Okay, and I'm a Mavs fan, so you guys know that formula. There's not too many players that just come in and just body the league like that. That's not normal. Trae Young is like Steph Curry with passing, just smaller. Okay, he's got transcendent offense. Not everybody comes into the league with that. Otherwise, look at some of the guys that came in with these guys. Dennis Smith Jr., Frank Ntilikina. Both of them are on the Knicks. Those guys had offenses, but they don't necessarily have all the other stuff. Lonzo don't necessarily have the offenses his skill set is unique. Let's put that to the side. But his understanding, his IQ of the game was already elite. He needs to know how to play the point guard position. That is also the part that takes the longest, and he needs reps. He needed reps with that. He also needed the influence of veteran leadership to instill in him what he needed going forward. Now, I'm not saying that Lonzo is going to be a 14 assists per game guy. No. But what I am saying is what we should expect from Lonzo this year is to command the offense much better. He should also get respect in that regard from B.I., Zion, and anybody else on the court. They should defer to him when it comes to the actions they run. Now, one of the issues we had last year was what? Too many Chiefs, not enough Indians. With Lonzo taking control and manipulating, because this is what Stan said. He said he was controlling his team. Say it again. He was controlling his team. That means he didn't say who was on the team. His team. Whoever he is on the court with is his team. That don't mean that he's the best player on the court, but they know, hey, if Lonzo say we're running this set, motherfucker, we running this set. That is crucial because last year we had Drew Holiday doing what? Last year we had B.I. doing what? Last year we had everybody, Frank Jackson, E'Twaun Moore, yada, yada, yada. We ain't gonna have that shit this year. We bet not. We got rid of that filth. They're not filth. We got rid of those guys. Let me not call them filth because I wouldn't want anybody to call me filth. But we got rid of those guys, okay? Lonzo telling people to get where they go and they listen. Communication is a two-way street. If Lonzo's getting command of the offense, we don't know. He could have had all the bench guys. He could have had some of them in Zion, some of them in B.I. He could have had Bledsoe. It could have been him and the starters. We don't know. But I'm telling you right now, if he's telling people and positioning them to play the game a better way, oh man, they finna be good. The Pels are gonna be better, light and day better. Now, does that mean they're gonna win more games? I'm not saying that, but execution-wise on the court, they're going to ascend. Now, I'm not saying again that this means Lonzo's about to go out there and drop 18, 10, and 8. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is his command of the offense is going to affect everybody else's efficiency. So even if he don't get the direct benefit of it, his presence on the court is going to be tangibly felt. You're going to be able to tell when Lonzo's not on that court this year. You're going to be able to be like, damn. Like last year, you could kind of see it. This year, because like, okay, I'm going to give you an example. When LeBron and CP3 get off the court, you can tell. When Lonzo gets off that court, you can better tell this year. I'm telling you. This was great to hear. And I know Lonzo had been sick. You know, I think he had a sore throat and stuff. You could literally tell in the interview. But I was glad to hear this from Stan. I'm glad that he put them into place in the sense that no, B.I. and Zion are not facilitators. I'm glad he said that because now some of these dumbasses out here, these Pelicans media pundits, not all of them, but they want to sit here and try to hype up, oh, B.I.'s a point guard. That goes like, look, not just because you run point guard don't make you a point guard. Ja Morant is a great passer out of attacking in the pick and roll, but he's not a point guard. There's very few actual point guards. You know what I'm saying? He's a great, don't get it wrong, he's a good, I'm struggling between calling him good and great. He's somewhere in between there. I don't think he's great yet. He's good. But he's better than good to me, but he's not quite great. So he's somewhere in there to give you, perspective. But he's still rough around the edges. A lot of these guys are still rough around the edges. Rondo is going to have an effect on Trae Young being out there in Atlanta. That's why it's important to have a guy like Rondo on your team, a veteran point guard who understands. And matter of fact, put it in a better sense, it's good to have a point guard who has done the job that you're trying to impart on a younger player because he directly can relate and he can teach it and better educate. It's one thing if you have Derrick Rose with Lonzo. Lonzo is a different kind of guard. than Derrick Rose. There's certain things about attacking that Derrick Rose could impart, but how to play the game as a point is different. Rondo understands it because he's a point god, essentially. That's a whole nother can of worms to deal with when we're talking about, teaching and veteran presence. It's why guys like Udonis Haslem, those guys are needed on teams. People like what's the guy's name? Elmer Fudd looking nigga in on the Lakers. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Uh, I can't remember the guy's name, but he re-signed for like $2 million. Those guys, veteran guys like that, who understand, know how to play, they're healthy, or they're ready to play at any time in their locker room presence. Those guys are necessary on teams. You know what I'm saying? So I'm so glad that this was stated today. This is necessary. This is important. I hope this is like the hierarchy being understood. I hope that means Lonzo is taking the reins as, look, I'm the point guard of this team going forward. I'm putting my stamp on the game. I'm going to make sure we have the right place. I hope that Stan understands too. Lonzo's going to be the extension of me out there, and then he can go to bat for Lonzo too this offseason when it's like, hey, I need Lonzo back. He runs my team. He gets these guys, like, his effect on the game is tangible. Do what you got to do. Get him back on the team. But anyway, it's your boy. Peace.